The question landed like a quiet explosion in the narrow office hallway, a moment so small it could have been missed, yet heavy enough to change the direction of one exhausted man's life. It came after a long day, after spreadsheets and coffee gone cold, after the weight of fatherhood pressed harder than deadlines. When his boss asked if he wanted to stay tonight, it sounded almost casual, almost harmless, but for a single dad who had been surviving on jokes and silence, it cracked something open that had been sealed for years. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and quiet miracles that happen in ordinary places, take a second to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel Brightly Kindness. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that are still waiting to heal. He had never planned to become a single father. Life had simply folded in on itself one winter, leaving him with a small apartment, a 5-year-old son who slept with the light on, and a grief that came in waves when the house was finally quiet. Mornings were rushed, lunches were packed with shaky hands, and evenings were spent pretending not to be tired so his child would not feel like a burden. Work became the place where he held himself together, not because it was easy, but because it gave him structure when everything else felt fragile. He showed up early, stayed late when he could, and used humor like armor. Jokes were safer than explaining why he never joined after-work dinners or why his phone buzzed with school reminders instead of friendly messages. His boss had noticed him long before that hallway moment. She noticed the way he double-checked reports, the way he apologized for leaving exactly on time, the way his eyes softened when he talked about his son without actually talking about him. She was used to ambition, to people asking for more, demanding more, wanting titles and praise. He wanted something simpler, something quieter. He wanted stability. He wanted to get home before bedtime stories turned into unanswered questions. That evening, the office lights were dimmer than usual, the kind of lighting that made everything feel more honest. Deadlines were looming, and he had already texted the babysitter to say he might be late. When the question came, he answered with a joke, something self-deprecating, something about being better company for spreadsheets than people. It was meant to deflect, to keep things professional, to avoid the truth that he was tired of carrying everything alone. But the joke did not land the way he expected. Instead of laughter, there was a pause, a softness, a recognition that surprised him. Staying meant more than finishing work. It meant being seen. It meant someone noticed his effort without him having to explain it. As the hours passed, the office became quieter, and the pressure he carried began to shift. He found himself working not out of fear, but out of a strange sense of belonging. He realized that for the first time since his life had broken apart, he was not being pitied or overlooked. He was being trusted. Days turned into weeks, and something subtle changed. His boss became an unexpected ally, rearranging schedules without making it a favor, praising his work without making it uncomfortable. He started to believe that maybe his life did not have to be a constant balancing act on the edge of collapse. Maybe it was possible to be a good father and still be more than the sum of his responsibilities. The jokes faded, replaced by confidence he had forgotten he possessed. At home, his son noticed the change before anyone else. Bedtime stories became longer, laughter came easier, and the shadows that once filled the apartment seemed less heavy. The man realized that strength was not about doing everything alone. It was about allowing life to meet you halfway when it offered its hand. The hallway moment replayed in his mind often, not because of what was asked, but because of what it revealed. One small question had told him he mattered beyond his output, beyond his pain. Challenges did not disappear. There were still sick days, still bills, still moments when grief resurfaced without warning. But now there was a sense of direction. He took on new responsibilities at work, not to escape his life, but to build one. He stopped seeing himself as someone barely holding on and started seeing himself as someone becoming whole again. Near the end of one long week, he stood in that same hallway, lights humming softly above him. He thought about how close he had been to burning out completely, how easily his life could have stayed small and closed off. The change had not come from a grand gesture or a dramatic confession. It had come from a joke, from a question, from a moment of human connection that reminded him he was not invisible. If this story is resonating with you, if you have ever felt unseen while doing your best for the people you love, please take a moment to like this video, share it, and subscribe to Brightly Kindness. Your engagement helps spread stories that remind us we are not alone. Just before the ending, here is a special request. Please comment below and share what part of this story touched you most, or a moment in your own life when a small kindness changed everything. In the end, he understood that life does not always change with thunder. Sometimes it shifts in quiet hallways, under soft lights, through questions that sound ordinary but carry extraordinary grace. A single dad's joke had opened a door, and through it came understanding, support, and the slow return of hope. And as he walked home that night, knowing his son would be waiting with a sleepy smile, he realized that staying, in every sense of the word, had finally given him a future worth believing.